Hey folks, day 15 of the 30-day vinyl challenge. We are at the top of the mountain and we are coming down. So um, Sam's not here today, obviously, so I'm going solo here. She'll do 2 tomorrow. And so today, sort of, kind of an interesting sort of day. Over the last 2 days, actually, I've been kind of really taking a hard look at the collection and kind of pulling some things out that I really haven't listened to. This one is a recent sort of discovery, probably within the last maybe 3 to 4 months or so. I was writing this article that sort of was, it became kind of bigger than what I really anticipated, and it kind of went out of control and things like that. But the sort of the point of the article, I was kind of taking a look at. I had made a comment to a friend of mine about digging in thrift stores and how you see all these, sort of Christian records and gospel records, like these privately pressed kind of things. And I was like, they're flooding the thrift stores. Like that's all you can find now. And after I made that comment, I kind of feel that I sort of downplayed that whole sort of, genre, if you will, of music. So I really started kind of going back, and as I was digging, I was really looking at, each record, not just, flipping through like mad and, getting in there and getting out of there. And it was cool because I just started discovering all this bizarre sort of corner of music that I never found out before. And a lot of it had to do with, too, I was looking at Barry McGuire, some of his solo stuff, after Eve of Destruction, and he had this period where he became, a born-again Christian. And it was kind of a toss-up between that album and this album I was going to show. The one before it, which he sort of did stuff with, most of at that time it was with the Flying Burrito Brothers. Not Graham Parsons, but, some of the members, Mike Clark, who was also in the Byrds. But the album I wanted to show today was Mylon. This is Mylon LeFevre, who is a very interesting, this is a crazy story involved with this guy. For those who don't know, just sort of a quick summary. When he's about 17 years old, he wrote a song for, I think it's called Without Him. He wrote it for Elvis Presley, and just tons of people covered it because Elvis made it huge. So, like at 17, he was like a made man. He was like a multi-millionaire at the age of 17. He sort of started doing his own thing. He became a little more contemporary. This album is really his first album in a rock sense. I think he did another album that was a little more kind of gospel-y, kind of, acoustic guitar kind of thing. But this, he's backed up by members of what became the Atlanta Rhythm Section. Their well-known tune, So Into You, which was an AM radio favorite in the 70s. But this album is produced by Allen Toussaint. It's just fantastic. It's like Southern rock, kind of Delaney and Bonnie, Leonard Skinner, James Gang, all kind of mixed together. It's really good. And his career is so interesting. Like he kind of, after this album, they kind of parted ways with those guys. They kind of became the Atlanta Rhythm Section. I think he joined up with this band called Lamb that were from San Francisco, and then they did an album called Holy Smoke, which came after this. And then he got involved with Alvin Lee from 10 Years After. They did an album together. And, he bumped elbows with, like, Pete Townsend and, George Harrison. And by the end of the 70s, he was ridiculous coke problem. He was strung out on heroin. He was real into needle drugs. And he pretty much, he was in bad shape. And then he sort of became a born-again Christian, and he had this really, his later albums that he did are very dated. They're very, like the 80s. I mean, he was sort of doing like an 80s kind of rock, kind of, not necessarily like hair. It's just weird. I mean, you can YouTube it. There's some really crazy stuff that he did. Not necessarily stuff that I would enjoy. They sort of did that. He was kind of led the contemporary Christian genre. I mean, he was sort of one of the forefathers. And it's cool to see this stuff. I think this came out in 1970, I want to say. Yeah, 1970. It was on the Cotillion label, so, the Atlantic subsidiary label. It was just a fantastic album. There's Old Gospel Ship is just an amazing kind of stomper. Sunday School Blues. Let's see. Who knows? Sweet Peace Within is really good. It's sort of a kind of a Hey Jude kind of type number. Peace Begins Within. So you have the sort of the Christian leanings with it, but it's not very overbearing. It just sounds very soulful and like I said, sort of like a kind of a Delaney and Bonnie kind of thing. So if you see this album, this is definitely one to get of his. It's um, one of sort of the beginnings of that genre, but at the same time, it's sort of not. It's too kind of mainstream to be kind of grouped in with the Christian rock thing, and it's a little too edgy to be just kind of right in the middle. So it's a very nice balance. So if you kind of are turned away by that kind of thing, I mean, this is one album that I feel that might lead you into some interesting territory. So there you go. I love the picture on the back too. It like screams like 1970. Like in a church in the background. So that's that. That's my pick. Day 15. Mylon Lefevre. So and he's nowadays too. He kind of goes around. He's sort of like on a lot of the television shows. He's sort of a minister of sorts. So just a crazy life. I mean, it's like you can't make this up. He used to be, one of the elite, I guess, and he kind of threw it all away, if you will. So there you go, day 15. So we will see you tomorrow.